Interstellar is a science fiction movie where the main character is played by Matthew McConaughey. In the movie, he plays Cooper, a former pilot turned farmer.
He's recruited by NASA for a mission to save humanity. Along with a team of scientists, he travels to a wormhole near Saturn to explore distant planets that might be able to support human life.
The team faces many challenges like running out of resources, dealing with the strange effects of time passing differently near massive objects. They have to deal with emotional pain because they are so far from their families. Cooper gets very determined to finish the mission because of his love for his daughter Murphy and his determination to save humanity and find a way back to her. The movie combines real science like black holes and how time slows near massive objects with a touching story about love, sacrifice and survival. It's both a visually stunning adventure and an emotional...
Cooper gets very determined to finish the mission because of his love for his daughter, Murphy, and his determination to save humanity and find a way back to her. The movie combines real science like black holes and how time slows near massive objects with a touching story about love, sacrifice and survival. It's both a visually stunning adventure and an emotional journey about the lengths people will go for those they care about.
At the beginning of the story, we see a dystopian world where we see all the crops and plants turning into dust. This is just because of a single pathogen called the blight. And because of the dust, people are becoming increasingly sick with dust in their lungs.
Dust.
We have seen many examples of pathogens almost killing a plant, such as the chestnut tree in America, the banana in South America. In the movie, the blight, the pathogen, infects all plants and all crops. And of course, on Earth there are types of pathogens that infect many plants, but usually they are much less effective than a normal pathogen. But Interstellar then goes on to burden itself with this sentence. By saying that Dr. Cooper's daughter will be the last generation because they will suffocate. But this is not true because the photosynthesis part of plants only accounts for around 50% of Earth's oxygen. The other comes from phytoplankton and cyanobacteria. And humans can still live in these conditions because in Base Camp 1 in Mount Everest there is 50% less oxygen and it's still possible to live there all year long.
We were first introduced to the hypersleep pods, or as the astronauts call it, the long sleep, when we were about a third of the way through the movie. These pods seem to be a mechanized contraption that somewhat resemble a coffin that is halfway filled with water. The inner lining of the pod is a metal grate, where the human is supposed to lie down. Now, when the process is initiated, a plastic cover is put over the user. Water is likely added and then presumably frozen. This technology is not a new concept and has actually been attempted. In 1967, a man by the name of James Bedford was frozen with the intention of bringing him back in the future. And he remains frozen to this day, even though it is unlikely that he will ever be brought back, due to the fact that the methods used when he was frozen are primitive compared to modern cryogenic standards. Is cryogenic preservation of the human body possible? The short answer is no. Even though science is developing with each passing day, there is still one problem that makes cryosleep impossible. You see, our bodies, our lungs and our cells are largely made up of water. And when this water freezes, it crystallizes, tearing up our cells from the inside out. So, until scientists can develop a solution to freeze water without crystallizing it, cryogenic preservation will only remain a science fiction. Oh what? Oh no, I'm going through a wormhole. Oh no. Oh no, what? What's going on? Yeah, so wormholes in it. The movie does an exemplary job at conveying how a wormhole might look and function if they were to exist and be traversable. You might be scoffing at the idea of a portal that would take you to the other end of the universe in a matter of minutes or even seconds. But even though wormholes have never been observed, they are highly probable according to Einstein's theory of relativity, even though they might only exist at either a quantum level or for a short period of time. The size and traversability are the main concerns when talking about wormholes. Interstellar is considered a pretty accurate movie, but the wormholes, although possible, are not very probable. Kip Thorne is a celebrated physicist who also worked as a producer for this movie. He is considered to be a person behind the design of the wormhole. The wormhole in the movie is a spherical portal with a distorted night sky outlining it. As we see in the whole movie, the wormhole can be crossed in seconds, and the journey seems to have no physical consequences for the astronauts. I would like to point out that it is really challenging to give wormholes an appearance that would make sense to the viewer without looking a bit off. And for what it's worth, I would say it looks pretty cool. It is unfortunately very unlikely that a wormhole, if they even exist, will be big enough to be traversable for a spaceship. And the fact that it would be open for such a long period of time without collapsing in on itself is as close to impossible as it gets. But the science behind wormholes is still pretty unknown, so who knows? This interpretation might be spot on, or wormholes might not even exist at all.
In Interstellar, Cooper falls into a giant black hole called Gargantua in a dramatic and fascinating moment. As his spaceship gets too close during an important mission, he ejects himself to save his crew and make sure their plans work. Instead of being destroyed, Cooper ends up in a strange, multi-dimensional space called the Tesseract. This space was created by advanced being, possibly future humans. This allows him to perceive time as a physical dimension. He can see and interact with moments in his daughter's past by manipulating gravitational waves, ultimately sending critical data back to Earth to solve an equation of gravity and save humanity. Later in the movie, Cooper is rescued when the advanced beings transported him out of the black hole and assisted him through the Saturn wormhole.
In real life, surviving a black hole would be impossible. Black holes have incredibly strong gravity that pulls everything towards them. As you approach the edge of a black hole, called the event horizon, the gravitational pull on different parts of your body would become uneven. For example, if you were feet first, the gravity pulling on your feet would be much stronger than the pull on your head. This would stretch your body in a process called spaghettification, which would ultimately tear you apart. If the black hole is a supermassive though, like Gargantua in Interstellar, the pull near the event horizon would be less intense. In this case, you might avoid spaghettification and survive crossing the event horizon, but once inside, you would eventually head towards the center of the black hole. Here, gravity becomes infinitely strong, and the rules of physics as we understand them would completely break down. At this point, survival is almost certainly impossible.
As for the Tesseract, the multi-dimensional space Cooper finds inside Gargantua that is entirely fictional, created solely for the movie's plot, where the film does use some real science like how time slows near massive objects, but things like sending messages through time or surviving inside a black hole belong to the realm of science fiction. The movie does a great job blending real scientific ideas with creative storytelling, making it thrilling and thought-provoking, even though it's not entirely realistic.
Take it slow, sir. You were extremely lucky. The Rangers found you with only minutes left in your oxygen supply.
Wow. The space station that we see here, where Dr. Cooper wakes up in, looks unreal. But is it possible? Is it just something that the writers of the movie made up? No. This space station is called a O'Neill cylinder, which is a theoretical space habitat proposed in 1976 by physicist Gerard O'Neill. The O'Neill cylinder consists of two counter-rotating cylinders, as we see here. This is to cancel out any gyroscopic effects that would otherwise make it harder to keep facing the sun. Each cylinder would be 8 kilometers in diameter and 30 kilometers long, and would be connected through a bearing system similar to a fidget spinner. Now, the rotating cylinders would simulate the Earth's gravity through centrifugal forces, and this design is also radiation proof by using materials such as regolith or water.
Now you're probably asking yourself, how can you live there? Well, in Time magazine, O'Neill explains how there would be an abundance in food, climate and weather control, and there would be no need for gas engines, and therefore there would be no pollution or smog. And the simulated Earth would be like Earth, with mountains, valleys and large green plains. And it depends on what the designers think is necessary.